About a month ago, Vercel released Next.13's app router as a stable release, so it's now ready to use in all of our production apps. I've given it a little playthrough. I've changed some of my apps from the Pages router to the apps router, which was a little bit weird at first, but after getting used to it, I really like it. It simplified a lot of things. There's no more underscore document underscore app, which was a little bit of a mess. It simplified it into layouts, pages. There's even other helpful things like middleware, which we'll get into in the rest of this video. Before we get started, I'm going to assume you have some knowledge of React and JavaScript and you've worked with front ends in the past. You've probably used states, navigation, even built like very simple applications. We're going to go through most of the things from the ground up, so you don't really need too much knowledge, but I'm going to assume you know some things. So if you didn't know, Next.js is a framework for building web applications. It's kind of like React.js, but it's a layer on top of that. It really emphasizes server components rather than client components. And what that means is it renders the page on the server side before showing it to the user. As an example, if you loaded something on the client side that had to fetch data from the internet, it would load the page, then it would fetch the data, come back, and then display the data. So there might be a bit of a stutter, or an image might load slightly later if you are fetching an image. But if you load it on the server first, then everything's loaded before being displayed to the user. So it's a more smooth experience. It's actually better for SEO, better for performance, but we'll get into that as we go through. So some of the main features of Next.js are its routing system. This used to be under the Pages folder, but now it's under the App folder in Next.13. So if you've ever used something like React Router, you know exactly how this works. React Navigation, I think it's called. Could be wrong. Just basically page routing. So going from /home to /dashboard or whatever. The big key thing about Next.js is its server-side rendering, which in the latest update with the app router really puts an emphasis on. So everything is server-side first, which it didn't used to be. Now it's very heavily emphasized on the server. They have some other amazing things like static and dynamic rendering, which we will go through, as well as the edge and middleware fetching. As I mentioned, data fetching is here. We'll go through all of this, but some other simple things are, I love using Tailwind, so we're definitely going to use Tailwind in all of this. And Next comes with Tailwind config straight out of the box. There's some other great optimizations like image optimization, which basically scales the image down or up for you depending on the screen size. So rather than having an image that's 1080 and then an image that's 720 and 4 whatever all in your folder, you just have to have one file, presumably the big file, that then scales down according to the screen size, and they handle all that stuff for you magically. Another big thing is TypeScript. If you're not using TypeScript in your production apps, I don't know what you're doing, honestly. JavaScript sucks. And we are just going to create a project. So if you've never done this before, go to the installation section. You can just run npx create next app at latest. I'll copy that in. And sure, we can install this. We're going to call this test app. Yes, we'd like to use TypeScript, ESLint as well, Tailwind. Source directory, I would like to use that, and the app router, yes. Import, no. And it will set up, and I will be back to you in a second. So if that didn't work, like mine didn't, you just have to give admin access, because I'm running on a Mac. So I'm just going to run sudo, and then the exact same thing. So once that's all done and good, we can go straight into VS Code and have a look at what we got. So the name of our app is in the package.json, as I'm sure you should be familiar with. If you use React, I think they use start rather than dev, so this is just a little change. So we run npm npm run dev to start the server, and we can check what it looks like. This is new to me. They've changed this up a little bit. So this is just the boilerplate they gave us, just a few little animations. And yep, this is our server running. The public folder is for statically served images or fonts or anything really that's just statically served. For example, you want to put an image or a document that you can access on a URL, you can create a folder called images inside the public folder. If it lets me, getting another permission error, so let me just give myself the admin access again. What I was trying to say was the statically served files in this public folder. I can just give you an example real quick. So if we did npm run dev to start up the server, let me just get a picture. I'll put a picture of my dog in here, looking cute. So if we go to localhost 3000 slash images slash dog.jpg, I can see that server, that file. So I hope that makes sense. This is basically public means your website URL slash and then images slash dog.jpg. So you can use these throughout your code, obviously, but just be aware that they are statically served on the URL as well. So if you wanted to have like a file, maybe like terms and conditions or whatnot, you could put it here. I'm just going to delete this for now because I don't need a picture of my dog. And let's move on to the app folder. So just now I chose yes for the Src folder, which is source. I like to nest everything in here because there's a whole load of stuff outside the folder. So for example, in here I'd have my components, I'd have my lib folder, I'd have my database folder, everything will just be on this source level. And then app is where the pages actually are. The pages and the API routes, which I'll talk about later as well. Before, if you use Next 12 and below, you'll know there was an underscore app file or an underscore document file or both. Now this has been replaced with this layout file. So all your metadata, aka your website title, which is up here, create next app, comes in the metadata. This is a huge object. I'll go through the docs later and show you what you can use. It's all great for SEO. And the description will be generated by, so here you see this meta tag. If you don't know what this is, it's basically just for SEO. So Google or any search engine ranking your website. This is for that. This is basically the layout of your entire app. You could put in things like Redux if you're using that, or anything global that needs some sort of configuration. Maybe if you're using Stripe for payments, you need to put in a global config in this top level layout file. And finally, we have the page itself, which is where all of this is. So if I just delete everything in here and just say hello, that's it. This is our page. And if we wanted to create another page, say test, so this will be localhost 3000 slash test. I will then create a page in here. So if I went to slash test now, this is the test page. Obviously, if I went anywhere else, it would throw me a 404, which is the standard 404 page from Next. We can customize this, but I'm not going to do that right now. So now that we've got the installation pretty much set up, we can move on. You can read through the docs if you're really interested in all the files. For example, all of these, the links, the package, the next config. This one's pretty important. So I wouldn't worry too much about all of these until you start building. So as we created here, we have the page file, which is just on localhost 3000. And then we also have the page localhost 3000 slash test, because we created a page file within the test folder, within the app folder. So if we're looking at the docs here, I'll just zoom in a little bit. So the app is the root level. So we'll have a slash blog, we'll have a slash dashboard, we'll have a slash dashboard slash analytics, and so on. And you can see that here. So your website, which for us right now is localhost 3000, will lead to slash dashboard slash settings. There's a whole bunch of stuff in this document, but I will just skip straight to here just to simplify things. And actually within the app folder itself, you can create as many folders as you want that won't actually be accessible by your users. only once you put a page file within this, it becomes accessible. So what that means is if I put test2 and I created something that wasn't called page, so I just called it component.tsx, hello from the component, this will not be accessible. So if I go to localhost 2000/test, you can see that this page is rendering. But once I go to test_2, the page cannot be found. That's because you have to put a page file for it to be routable. I'll just blow this up a little bit. You can put everything you want under the app folder if you really want to. The structure is completely up to you. Some people like to put their components, their utils, whatever. I did want to scroll up a little bit just to address this list of pages that you could create. So all of these create some sort of page within that domain. So for example, if I created the not found page here, let's just write not found.tsx, then I say this page was not found, try again. If we go to some random page like localhost 2000/whatever, we've changed the not found file. So before, if you remember, let me delete this to show you, it was this. This is the default by Next.js, but as I mentioned before, we can customize it. I'm just going to cut there so this video doesn't go on for too long, but I hope you learned the absolute basics of Next 13 and the new app router. In the next video, we're going to cover the dynamic route, the loading states, transitioning between pages, and all that good stuff. So stick around and drop a like. Let me know if you want anything clarified in the comments or if you want to know anything else about Next 13. Until then, ciao, ciao.